Strive for improvement, time for the blueprint. Minds to elevate, thrive, and demonstrate, planting a movement. Sow the seeds, educate the flourish, building up the team. Our network with purpose, industry is green. We've only scratched the surface, know this call is deep. Nobody gon' outwork us. Yeah, we chasing greatness, trying to give the code. Moving up with patience, foundation stone. Doing what it takes, we're here to break the mold. This for anyone who wanna level up. Let's grow.
Guys, what is up? Welcome back to another episode of the Plant Movement Podcast. Today, guys, hold on tight. We're going to be taking you back to 1970, and not just an old history story, all right? The gentleman that we're going to be interviewing today is Mr. Bob, and he grew his name through a niche, selling insurance, workers' comp. He found a solution. Okay, we've talked on this before. Finding lack and fulfilling with abundance. This is something that he did in his time. We're going to listen to the strategies that he implemented and what worked and what didn't. He grew to work with the biggest and largest nurseries in Miami-Dade County, positioning himself as a leader for insurance. So hold on tight, guys. That's who we're interviewing today. And, oh, hold on. And he just sold his insurance company. So we get to hear where he is today. Mr. Bob, God bless you, sir.
Good morning.
Thank you for coming, man. I'm gonna pretend like I didn't say hello to you earlier.
Yeah.
Bob, so talk to us. You started with insurance. That was your career. Why did you jump into insurance?
My father was extremely friendly on a personal basis with his State Farm agent, who was located in South Miami. And that man and his family were over at our home because we were one of the very few in the 50s that had a pool. Their kids, my brothers and I, we were always in and out of the pool all day long. And that man came over because he wanted his kids to have a free swim. So I got to know the word insurance even when I had no idea what it meant. I played so much baseball from the time I was about 8 years old through high school that I thought I was going to be a professional baseball player. But that didn't happen. It wasn't even close. But I wound up working in the summertime for that State Farm agent, handing out circulars with his name and picture on it to brand new homes being built in the South Miami area, way before the Redlands were anywhere near this size. They were just raw land out here in those days. Was throwing circulars into mailboxes or door fronts. But he got known. And in those days, State Farm was doing a lot of advertising just like they do now. And he built a substantial insurance business on auto and home insurance. And there I was, just a young guy. Finally, he said to me at one point when I was at the University of Florida, if you transfer to Miami, I'll put you to work here in the office. My parents liked that idea.
Good.
They thought getting on-the-job training and making a few bucks was a good idea. They were very basic thinkers. And now that I reflect back, a lot of their thinking was right on track.
Yes, thank God for your parents. Yeah, they
So I did. I left Florida and transferred down to Miami in 1961. Finished up my college career at Miami and worked for this man. His name was Richard Burt, and his office was located on the intersection of US 1 and Sunset Drive. I worked all through my graduation, thinking that I would be a State Farm insurance agent. But life always has twists and turns, and in those days, there was a selective service system. You had to register for the draft, the military. So here I graduate, and within 30 days, here comes my letter saying, go take a physical for the U.S. Army. And I said, I don't want to go in the Army. So I didn't know what to do. I mean, there were young men running to Canada and hiding out, but I wasn't going to do that. But I did what a lot of others did. I ran down to Homestead Air Force Base and enlisted in the Air Force Reserve. That meant you would do 6 months and come back home. They sent us away to basic training, which was in Texas, a little bit of training, and then all of a sudden I was back home. All I had to do was some summer things for 5.5 years. And that way I fulfilled my military duty on the hope that I would never be called. Now, Vietnam was raging then, but I never got called for any kind of active duty, which was great. Meantime, I was starting in my career. The military is a great place for people to learn discipline.
That's 100%.
Although my parents were extremely disciplined people because they came through tough times. And when you come through tough times, you get disciplined or you fail.
So how did you get into
I kicked around. You know, I joined a couple of different agencies and felt that, you know, some worked well, but I didn't like this. And I bounced around until all of a sudden I realized, because of all my little insurance background, even at that stage of my life, the idea of selling life insurance with much higher percentage commissions appealed to me because that was the way you could make money in greater amounts faster. So I leaned into the life insurance world and did pretty well for 2 or 3 years. But America was just embracing healthcare in those days. Bigger companies had instituted health plans, but the small little company didn't. But now they were thinking about it. And one of my golfing friends that I had gotten to know joined a company that was selling a small group product specifically designed for small groups. And I had joined Kiwanis, which was a civic organization to do good in the community, but you meet people in business, and that was my primary motivation. So one of those members of the Kiwanis Club was a tree trimmer. This is where fate, just plays a part in your growth. Mm-hmm. And he said to me, hey, we're thinking of putting in a health plan. You got something for us? And I said, I think I do. And the next thing I know, I was selling him a plan, see?
And he's in,
and all of a sudden, industry. Bert Newcomb Tree Service was one of my customers.
Okay.
And he was such a friendly man. He knew everybody that was selling trees at that time.
Oh, wow.
And so he started to introduce me to others.
What I like about that time of history is there wasn't anything like today. We think about selling today, and we have a lot of other avenues, social media being one of the largest ones. Let's say the internet. You got to go and actually physically shake hands.
Correct.
Introduced with someone that is saying that you're credible. So when you look at all of that, that's concrete, which is what we preach today. No instant gratification. You have to go shake people's hands. You got to do it the hard way. And that's what really makes a difference. And that just goes to show. So now you're getting dragged in without even knowing. You're getting dragged into an industry. From there, you went adding policies for different people. You were doing
and all of a sudden, I was being introduced to more farmer types that were either growing foliage plants or big trees. Health insurance was the product at that moment. As I got to know the nursery owner, I found out that they were angry with Farm Bureau because Farm Bureau was selling all of the commercial coverages, including workers' compensation.
Okay.
But they made the customer pay in full. The growers wanted to do business with the farm insurance company.
Yes,
it was,
the banks,
everybody was trying to be loyal to their industry.
Yes.
But they weren't happy over the fact that they had to pay the premium in full. And the way they got around that was to finance the premium so they could make monthly payments and so forth. Well, I saw an opportunity that if I could find a carrier that would provide the same product and not demand payment in full, I might be able to sell a policy.
Okay.
The state of Florida, even then, back in the late 60s and early 70s, regulated the cost of workers' comp. It's not an open rating state. We're one of a few states that still does it that way. Most states just let the competition rate it the way they want to rate it. So I found a company that was saying, hey, you want to pay us monthly? We're not going to charge you any more. We'll just take the annual premium and divide by 12. Well, that was saving the nursery that I was doing business with, whatever that difference was. And some of it was substantial even in those days. Before you know it, they were getting the same product they had before, but not having to pay finance charges.
Wow.
So all of a sudden, I started to sell. And I found that product was more desirable than the health insurance. So all of a sudden, my workers' comp business started to grow. And remember, I was in the life insurance side. All of a sudden, that started to dwindle because this side was starting to grow.
Oh, wow.
And it took about 2 years for me to really wake up and realize, hey, I got something going here.
That's exciting because once you realize that, then you can go full throttle in it, and then you're focused more on the one thing. You got to work with some very big companies.
Well, I got to meet people. I met Jose Costa, Tony Costa's father, when he was trying to grow tomatoes back in those properties off 162nd Avenue.
That's before
But it didn't work so well. I was there with the growth of that family.
Wow.
Tony was the oldest. He was my friend, casually, of course, but introducing me to all the other nursery people that he knew.
Wow.
And foliage plants were starting to really go big in America. The FNGA, which was the statewide association at that time, Florida Nurserymen and Growers Association, they would not give the foliage growers kind of recognition.
Okay.
And Tony and a couple of others, Bob Plyler was a name back in those days. Okay. Joe Hill was another one. They all were part of this foliage industry that wanted more recognition. And when they didn't get it, I think it was 1976, they decided to form their own association. And they called it the Florida Foliage Association. Oh. Doesn't exist today. It only lasted 10, 12 years. But they formed it, they made their own little world, and they appointed me to go out and sell the health and the workers' comp.
Wow.
They gave me that exclusive in Dade County.
With their name.
With their
approval.
backing. Yeah.
Wow.
And what could be better than that? I had nice people recommending me to others.
Wow.
And every once in a while, I would get a call to have to go to Broward County or even Palm Beach County, which I would jump in my car to make a sale. I'd go anywhere. But it got crazy. I couldn't do it all. So I had 2 younger brothers who had left Florida to make their financial world. And I kept telling them, come back. I got opportunity here. So over a period of about 5 years, I brought both brothers back.
Wow.
One settled in Brandon, Florida, which was just a growing town east of Tampa. I introduced him to key nursery growers there. My brother Steve in Palm Beach County. And all of a sudden, after a few years, the 3 brothers were selling the same products in different areas of the state as independent agencies.
Wow. Independent
agencies. In other words, I didn't say you were selling for me. I never looked at it that way. I was giving a family member an opportunity to have their own little business, just like me.
So you did it all
I just did it because they were brothers and it was opportunity.
That's awesome.
Now, my mom and dad thought I was great. There were many times I thought, I should get something for this.
Yeah.
But I didn't. I operated as Robert Schwabe, an individual, from 1965 to 1980. And by that time, my financial growth occurred enough to a point where the accounting people told me I should incorporate, I should put in a retirement plan so I could tax shelter some dollars. And I started to do those kind of things. I incorporated. And at the height of my growth, I had 4 or 5 girls working in the office to support the kind of sales and service that I expected to give to people. And I did totally have a strong desire to provide service, not just sell the product. Yeah. If you had a claim, we wanted to help you resolve the claim problem. In workers' comp, there's a lot of gray area stuff. And I dug into it, learned how it worked. I went to a few workers' comp hearings to learn how the legal system takes advantage of workers' comp. I mean, today, it's horrible. The Morgan & Morgans are out there putting TV ads on that shows I slipped in Greece, and they gave me a whole big chunk of money, see? When in reality, that's a workers' comp claim. It's all regulated. Yeah. But you wouldn't know it looking at that ad, see? Because they're trying to attract someone to come in so they can make money. It's
a bad strategy. So the strategy you used was honesty.
Yeah, and honesty and integrity worked for me.
Yes, and then also you're providing a service that when they reached out to you to get the service, and now they're calling you with a claim, you came through 100% and you took care of that problem.
Right.
Those are big things. That's what it really takes to stand out, because I'm thinking on how you were able to strategize to get into all these people's businesses. Oh, just call Bob. No, call Bob, because today we have people like that.
Yes.
That are leaving. They're leaving the industry. Like, for one, it was my attorney that did all the paperwork. John P. Moss, he's out. He's gone. He sold the firm. And this is a guy that did everybody's closing, everybody out here in our industry. I think about that, and it's more simple than people think. It's being courteous and just being an honest human.
That's 100% true,
and
Willie.
then finding the lack.
I took the simple, honest approach, and it worked because the growth of this community helped me tremendously. The growth of, Florida has had tremendous growth. It's happening now. It's just happening in a different way because now they build homes or they build multi-story buildings, and that's not your industry nor mine per se.
Yeah. So now, where you're at today, you built a business, you built a name for yourself. You sold your firm.
Correct.
What made you want to sell it and not give it to, let's say, another family member or
a combination of 2 things: the stage of life and age that I had achieved.
Okay.
And the pot of gold that they offered to me.
Okay. Well, that's good. So they offered you a good pay.
Yeah, right.
You're still with them for the next how long?
I had a 3-year consulting arrangement. Okay. I'm at the 1.5 point now.
Okay. And it consists of what? You're there every day?
Just about every day.
Every day.
But they allow me to, come and go as I please. And as long as I involve myself in all of the activities. And I've tried to instill in their service concept my success service concept, and they've embraced that.
Okay.
I find that we work well together.
They're paying you for your
Yeah,
time?
they pay me for
Okay,
my
I'm
time.
asking you these questions because one of you guys on the other side listening, or you might know somebody that's maybe on the sidelines. Should I jump out? Should I stay in? You know, not everyone has a next of kin to give something to, and not every next of kin wants it. Can you even handle it? You know, there's so much that goes into creating a business. It's literally like a hot potato that our hands are burnt, you know, so we don't feel the heat. But you give it to someone else that has tender hands, and they're gonna let go of it. I asked those questions for that reason. So now it's good because now you're there as a consultant. You can give your expertise where it's needed, and you just oversee everything and make sure that their investment doesn't blow up on them. Are they in the insurance world?
Well, they're in every aspect of
Yes.
insurance.
Okay, so now the company became part of, let's say, a bigger umbrella.
Well, they reached out to me because they knew I was susceptible to the idea of selling. That's
Okay.
number one.
Okay.
Number two, they did not have a benefits division. They
Ooh,
were
benefits.
strictly in the property casualty world.
Okay.
No benefits. By buying me, they got a benefits account structure,
Yeah.
and they got an expert. Since then, they've purchased other benefits guys, and so they're building through acquisition. And now they have more accounts.
That's a big popular thing, buying up other companies that do things well. They're on the sidelines, take them, and now it's part of their portfolio.
Willie, I can tell you that what I did was strictly successful for a lot of reasons, but timing was a big factor. Today, you couldn't do what I do. I don't think it would be really tough because the bigger agencies get bigger and bigger, and having markets to place insurance is the key. And property insurance has become a major problem in South Florida, where the highest cost property insurance to
very
go out and buy wind coverage to cover your dwelling for a hurricane is so expensive.
It is. In our world, at least, like let's say in plant world, the only insurance we have to really worry about being plant growers is, let's say, crop insurance. But that's a different umbrella. You guys sell crop insurance?
No.
Okay.
Quite regulated.
Yeah, it's regular. There's
And,
people that
and
do
a
it.
difficult product to price.
Yeah. Well, there's companies that do it that we work with a few. You guys are listening and you want to be a part of it, and you guys sell insurance for crop insurance. So we would love to talk to you. We've interviewed someone that is an adjuster for crop insurance. So we got to hear his perspective as an adjuster. But if you guys are selling insurance and you want to have an opportunity to speak to everybody, you're allowed to come and pour it into the mics, is how we say over here. You were able to position yourself. Today, I feel like it might be harder because maybe, let's say, there's more competition out there. But I feel like someone can still come, be obsessed over, let's say, issues or problems or services, and they can find and tailor something that can work better for people. And over time, it takes 3 to 5 years, you can build a brand around your name that can really help people in the industry because you become an expert at the niche. And that's the biggest thing. Yeah, it's like, yeah, you can get insurance for $100 less a month for your vehicles, all your vehicles. You're paying $200 more, but you got this guy on the 911 dial, which is worth a lot more. You know, it could take care of thousands of dollars.
I think so, yeah.
That's who you want to have around. You want to have the people that do well and that can help you, not so much look at what it costs you.
Where do you see this industry going?
I came along at a time when there were so many years where they couldn't grow it fast enough, and they would price it at what price they wanted to sell it for. And competition was a factor. But I actually saw the transition where Walmart, Home Depot, Lowe's would tell the nursery guy, all right, we'll buy 1,000 of these, but we're going to tell you what we're going to pay for them. And I used to say, how can you guys let that happen? Well, otherwise we don't sell them. They'll go to somebody else. I watched things happen that seemed to be illogical. I never was totally on the inside, but I heard a lot of stories.
Yeah.
Can some retail organization be so big and powerful that they can tell you, yeah, grow that, but we're going to tell you what we're going to pay for it? Well, what if it's not enough money for you to make money? What do you do?
That's a big factor.
Yeah.
And I don't
Is
know
that
how
the way
it
it still happens today?
So I cannot speak on it, guys, 100% because I'm not in that world 100%. But I have heard that, and I have been presented with big list of paperwork to sign, and that they, big companies that they want to pay, let's say, 40 to 50% less than what I sell a product for.
Yeah.
Currently, it is up against the wall. These bigger companies, they do have power, and they do try to suppress and make more and squeeze numbers. At the end of the day, they work for their investors, so it becomes a little different. They play a different game.
I also saw that with growth of resorts in the Bahamas, I saw nursery people start switching and growing for them down there. One of my largest accounts that I started with when they were just two brothers cutting lawns, it was called Tropics North.
I know Tropics
And
North.
the Rudder brothers, I kind of grew up with.
Wow.
I was a little older than them, but I got to know both of them. One of them got cancer and died rather young. Josh Rudder is still alive today. We chat once in a while and we laugh about the old days.
Okay.
But I saw his company grow from 20 employees to 300 employees. And they grew, but they sold a lot of material to the Bahamas. I know that they landscaped Atlantis and all that area down there. Larry Bird, right down the street here.
Island Trump.
Larry Barr.
Larry Barr.
I met him when he was nothing, and we grew together. Today, we're close. We laugh over the fact that we're two gringos married to Cuban ladies.
That's your own fault.
That's good and bad.
Yeah.
I've come to learn that these Cuban women are tough.
But you're still around. So
Yeah.
you guys are still together.
But
so it works out.
anyway, his business has grown and grown, and he's done so well. He works all day long.
Mr. Larry, me and him are very, very tight, and he said yes to coming on a podcast. So one day we will have him on, and he's positioned himself to be the main guy in the islands that can get you all the product. And I think that is what everybody needs to be. They need to fight for their position on what they're good at and what they like to fight with, the people they get along, that side of that niche, and create a niche and get to the top of it, because that is very, very possible. And that's what you did.
Yeah.
That's what we're currently trying to do
do
as well.
I did it as a very small part of that big total, but I can tell you it paid off for me.
Yeah.
I was never looking to be a super millionaire, but I created a cash flow that was substantial, made my family live very nicely.
No, and then you gave opportunities to people to
Yeah,
come
and
work.
I've always given back wherever I could. Yeah. As I grew, everything was going along pretty well, but this thing called Hurricane Andrew came along, and it changed the landscape down here. You know that from a history point of view. But a lot of the small nursery guys never came back, and that was Costa's first opportunity to really grow bigger by acquisition, because they picked up stuff inexpensively, so to speak, and they were not fools. They saw the opportunity there and they did it. But I remember a family named Capel. They had Capel Farms, and they were just on Eureka, just as you left the Turnpike Extension.
You just
by
took me back.
a mile and a half, just past Robert Morgan there on the south side of Eureka. They had many acres, and they grew, and they sold a lot to the Winn-Dixie and Publix. They sold plants out of there. Today, that's all developed. Their reward was in selling the land for development, and that family is long gone. They all live in Kentucky today.
Wow.
And that just goes to show how much it's moved, and how much they pushed the redlands.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the redland, like I say, country land was very vast, and now there's less of it. And then the houses that did have, let's say, 5 acres that were on the other side of US 1, on the east side, now they bulldoze that house and it's buildings. So
You know
there's
where
an
the
old
big
house.
tower is on 264th Street?
Uh-huh.
That nursery was run by a family called Sprinkle. They had 4-in-1 nursery and also Sprinkle Farms. Today, George Sprinkle Jr. runs a tree farm near the Homestead Air Force Base.
Okay.
Basically grows palms rather than anything else.
Yeah.
But I've gone through all of that, But there's actually a few names that are still from the 70s, still in operation today, like Capri Farms, Botanics. They're all companies that I got started with early when they were young, and they're still here.
And those names that you mentioned, those are people that have positioned themselves to be great at what they're great at.
So it's just people and getting to know them and sticking with them and solving their problems. Because believe me, whether it's workers' comp or the health insurance, you're going to have a problem.
Yeah.
It's a very complicated area. America wants to give choice to everybody, and it's hard to make choices work easily when there's so many different products and so many variables. And today in medicine, with all that goes on, it's very difficult to understand why you should have this medication or that or this procedure, and why insurance companies won't pay for this, but they'll pay for that. I mean, it's complicated. I try to do the best I can in solving those people's problems, but a lot of it difficult.
Yeah.
And then Hillary Clinton tried to put in a national health plan many years ago. She failed, but Obama made it happen. It's called the Affordable Care Act. Got too many pieces to it.
To stay at the top of your game, you have to you have to be knowledgeable in it, meaning that you know what's trending. So what's new, what's up and coming for each company that you sell insurance out of.
Not easy to do.
It's not easy to do, but if you're good at it and you can market it into, let's say, a niche, now you can offer more and be on top of what's new and help this guy with this new thing and this thing and that thing. That's what really helps you stand out. That's why I said you got to be obsessed, because only an obsessed person would do that to themselves.
It takes personality.
It does.
Don't cut too many corners. We all want to cut a corner to get somewhere faster, but it's really the slower, correct way to do something that maybe makes you wait longer to get somewhere. But when you lay that foundation, it comes. I've always said to younger people that success equals opportunity plus knowledge. You have to know the product. You have to have the opportunity to use it. You put those two together, you can be successful. But patience. I had the patience in those days. I wasn't really trying to reach anywhere real quick, but I kept working hard every day. I got up in the morning and drove down here to the Redlands, and I wouldn't even have anything to do. I would just stop in and see the nursery guy, say hello, tell a few jokes, because comedy's been my life. I'm a comedian at heart.
That helps in sales.
And I would just take 15 minutes and interrupt their day and make them laugh for a minute or two and I'd leave. And then when a problem came along, I didn't run away. I solved that problem. Yes. And the next thing I know, they were telling another guy, hey, Bob does a good job.
You want to just give a huge shout out to our friends over at Plant Finder. If you are in the industry as a plant grower and you're growing plants and you want to jump into the industry, you want to get plugged in direct, you have to jump on Plant Finder. We interviewed the COO, episode 66 with Mr. Lee. You guys got to go listen to that episode. We talked about how much opportunities in this book. 50 years pioneer in the making. They do a book. They also do it online, plantsearch.com. That's for the East Coast of the United States. They also have one for the West Coast. It was so easy. Literally, we reached out. We told them 2-3 things, what we wanted to do, how we wanted to change the game. And we have all of our businesses, plant logistics, delivery company. We have the nursery growers, a doctor for the industry. We have the podcast in here, the nursery in here, everything in here. We support Plant Finder and we love you guys. We just wanted to give you a shout out. All right, guys, enjoy the episode. Let's keep going.
My marketing strategy was all face-to-face and personality. I mean, obviously I had a few handouts, but I wasn't advertising on the radio. I wasn't advertising in a magazine. I was just going from one to another and hoping that they would refer me. Today, because of my age, I've been in the Medicare world for 15, 18 years. I'm an expert in the Medicare products, and they're complicated as hell because America, again, just makes it complicated for people to choose. What do I choose? You know, the agency that Carlos is associated with, which is the same as me, they cover all the insurance products. And they're as knowledgeable as anybody I know because they have the right people there.
What do you guys offer today that would work in our industry?
Well, first of all, everybody needs what's called liability insurance or general liability. Sometimes you have to consider an umbrella because today we're a very litigious society. Whether it's Morgan & Morgan or all those other firms out there, they're ready to sue everybody real quick. So you got to have protection. And what most consumers don't understand is that a liability policy not only protects you for a judgment that should come against you, but it defends you at their cost. When you buy liability insurance, you're actually buying legal defense if a suit comes against you.
Oh, yeah.
So therefore, you got to have that.
So you can use that insurance for that liability for that as well?
Yeah, in other words, it's part of the contract.
That's if you have it as an umbrella.
Well, no, the umbrella is just excess, so to speak. But you have to have the basic general liability. Someone comes onto this property and stumbles and falls while they're walking around looking at plants, or a buyer. You might have done nothing wrong, but they're going to get the Morgan & Morgan to say that you did something wrong. And the next thing you know, you're involved in a suit. Well, that liability policy will defend you because you're their client. They're trying to mitigate their losses. But if a judgment comes against you, then the liability policy pays off up to their limit. So that's a basic product in our world. And property. You got buildings, obviously shade houses and crops have always been a very special area.
That's under crop
It's not
insurance.
something I have a great deal of knowledge in, but if you can insure them, even with large deductibles, you
them
might
insured.
choose to do that. See? And I know there are federal programs in reference to crop, although I don't know anything specific that's been around the world.
And you
Workers'
guys do
comp
workers'
is
comp?
required by the state of Florida. If you have 3 or more employees, you got to have workers' comp. Equipment has to be covered, Vehicles, I mean, and TRMG does that. We do all that, and we do it efficiently and as competitively as possible.
I learned about workman's comp the hard way. I didn't have it. When I got hit, I ended up having to pay 3 years back. And
that is the hard way.
Yeah, you don't cut corners. I had to make
I don't
a
hear
payment.
that story very often.
I had to go, oh my gosh, it was brutal. 3 years, I had to do a money order. I had to be a money order.
Yeah.
And I had to mail it in.
Yeah.
And I had to get a return receipt because I had to have proof that I mailed it. And I had to wait in that line every day while operating a business. Oh, man. But I learned, and you don't cut corners. And you get to a point that, like you said, try not to cut too many corners. It gets to a point where you can't cut any corners, because then you have huge problems. And insurance, guys, when you have something that is worth something, when you finally get there, when you have something that's worth something, get insurance.
On the good side of workers' comp, the state of Florida has never had lower rates in the last 5 years. Yes. Our rates have gone down, down, down here. Yeah. The state is in control. If you want to do business here, you have to take the state rate. They have a system of working the rate through an arithmetic formula. I'm not going to get into that. I hardly understand it myself. But if you want to sell coverage here in this state, you've got to sell it at a rate. They have a category called florists and drivers. It's a code 0035. It's for 15-gallon containers or less. If you grow and put product in greater than 15 gallons, it falls into a higher rated category. In my day, it was all one category. I was one of the guys that helped get the state to understand that the foliage growers putting small plants in pots is not as big a risk as growing a tree in a 25, 30-gallon pot. See, that has now been out. In fact, Jack Miller of Botanics, who was at that time actively running Botanics, he still owns it, but he's on the outside. He was part of the initiative to help me get the state to understand that. The state has an organization called the National Council of Compensation Insurance. It's an independent agency that they hire to run all these figures of claims and premium. The insurance company has to report the premiums you pay and the claims you have to this national council. And they formulate a modification of the state cost. You have good experience, you get a discount. You have bad experience, you get a surcharge. The larger you get, the more good experience works for you, and the worse bad experience hurts you. You have to pay more. When you're a nursery grower and your experience is so bad, they want to come in and double your premium. Where do you go to get it when you have to have it? See,
it's rough. No, at that
so
point,
there are a couple of possible solutions, but it's better to try to manage your risk internally.
Yeah, 100%.
There are safety programs, there are drug-free workplace programs, all these things to help you manage, but it isn't easy.
No, it's not.
And I think that most of the public out there has no idea how difficult it is for someone to be in business. There's hurdles at every turn.
Unless you're in your shoes, we don't know what you're dealing with.
Correct.
Guys, if you want to get in contact with the agency that Bob used to own, all the information is in the description down below.
He's still there for another 2 years.
Yeah, if you want to reach out to Bob, you can. You can say, hey, I have to speak with Bob. If he doesn't give me insurance, I don't want to speak to nobody else, and you can talk to him. All right, guys, so reach out, say hello, tell him that you watched him on the podcast, you listened to him, and I know that'll make his day. What we're going to do now is we're going to switch seats. We're going to bring on Carlos, which is now a representative of the agency that Bob still works at. This is someone that can be a point of contact for now, and this is someone that has been studying and planning on how they can really come into this niche and really bring some fire.
Can we say the name over and over again? The Risk Management Group.
Yes, the Risk Management Group. Yeah, all their information is going to be down in the description down below, guys. So here we have Carlos Rodriguez with TRMG, the Risk Management Group. How you doing?
What's up, Will?
What's up, man? And it's exciting because this is actually my cousin, so it's funny.
This is a family affair.
This is a family affair. So what I want to do real fast, and not waste anybody's time, what do you guys offer today that anyone in the green industry, so we have landscaping, we have tree trimming, we have nursery growers, we have heavy equipment, we have hardscapes, we have people who do electrical and lighting, people that do ponds, people that are digging holes in the ground. What do you have available right now that everybody needs to know so they can tap into coverage?
So that's a good starting point. It really depends on exactly what you said, the details of the operations of different companies. To get into the nitty gritty and to touch upon what you and Bob were talking about, it's really good to have that one point person that you can depend on, you can rely on when it comes down to your insurance needs. So for example, we mentioned a general liability policy, at a minimum, a policy that you should have, workers' comp.
And that starts at what? A couple $100 a year?
It depends. So a general liability policy is typically rated off the classification code on what the business operations are.
But it's a cheap insurance.
It can be. It depends on the size of the company. It's rated off of the classification code, which could be, let's say you said tree trimmer. Let's say you're a landscaper. You do lawn maintenance and tree trimming. Those are two different operations that are factored into your general liability policy.
Okay.
And then they'll use your typically a company's revenues, your annual revenues, to factor in the size. So let's say you're a small company, you do lawn maintenance and tree trimming, you make $175,000 a year. That's a fairly small size company. Let's say you're another company that does the same thing, but you make $3 million a year. You're going to be paying more for your general liability policy, because you're a bigger company. For in the eyes of the insurance company, you have a greater risk of something happening.
More operations.
Correct, more operations. Typically, if you're watching this, you have insurance, you know, and it's really good to every year talk to your broker. And if you don't have this sort of relationship with your broker, reach out to us. We like to sit down, learn about the business, and make sure you're covered. Because it doesn't make sense to be paying for insurance, and in case something ever does happen, it doesn't work for you because you didn't have the right coverage. I keep going back to tree trimming because in this world, this happens a lot. You have a general liability policy or a workers' comp policy, and you do tree trimming, but you're not classified as a tree trimmer. If something happens to an employee, or if damage happens to a third party due to the business's tree trimming operations, that won't be covered, and you're going to be in a lot of trouble. Not a lot of trouble, but it's going to be very expensive for you because the insurance that you're paying for is not going to work for you. So the idea is, if you're going to have insurance, have it well rated, well classified. Every single year, you should review your policies. Every single year, we at TRMG shop around your policies to make sure you're getting the best possible rate every year. Some agencies out there don't do that. You're kind of on an auto renewal pricing situation, and you don't get the service and the attention that you deserve. One of the reasons why Bob mentioned before TRMG has had the success that it has is because it's matched his service criteria. You know, we're big on service. It does us no good to grow via acquisition and not retain all of those customers. One of the primary ways we retain customers is by offering service. All of our clients know that every single year we're shopping their policies around, and we're making sure, and we're doing this with open channels of communication. We're presenting you with multiple quotes. So to show you, hey, look, we went out to the market, we found these quotes, we recommend this one. This one might be the least expensive, but you know what? It's got this exclusion. It doesn't offer this feature that would be nice for your business, whatever it is. And then we'll go for, you know, we kind of customize the appropriate coverage for you. A list of policies for the green business. You know, general liability has been mentioned. Workers' comp has been mentioned. A property. You got a trailer, you got a building, you have equipment in it, you got computers, you got furniture. We can insure all that for you. We have equipment floaters. You have equipment that moves around a lot. You got, you know, golf carts, or if you're in tree trimming or more of a landscaper, you have, you know, tree trimmers, lawn mowers, equipment that moves around. So it's not in a permanent place. You put it in a truck, you put it in a trailer, you go to your next field, or you go to another client. There's special policies for that sort of equipment. Trucks and trailers. Going back to your idea of finding a niche, because of our size, we have access to insurance carriers that have specific programs for landscapers and businesses in the green field, which, because they offer these special programs, they understand the business a little bit better, so they're able to price it more accurately, and we're able to package a lot of your policies together under one kind of umbrella of a carrier. I have a client right now, big company, they do a lot of work statewide, they do a lot of FDOT work, and going out to market, they've got about 50 trucks.
Landscape?
It's a landscape maintenance company. Maintenance work on the turnpike and stuff like that. All throughout the state. 50 trucks, 30 trailers, a list of 100 pieces of equipment. Large multi-million-dollar company. They pay a lot in premium, but they are a large company. Compared to the other options out there for them, they're saving at least 25% by being in this specialized program that's offered to businesses of his size and in his industry. And we have access to those carriers because we have multiple clients in that field. So these insurance carriers give us access to their program because we're able to place the right businesses with them.
What I like about it is that you're basically holding yourself accountable to come through, because you're saying all these things, right? So that means that's what the company does. And then you're the one point of contact that anything that they need, they reach out to one person. Correct. And you know for their everything that they have going on and what can benefit them. There's multiple angles here, right? So you come to us, we set you up right. We place you with the correct carriers, create the right coverage for you, the right policy, so you're well covered. That's one aspect. Let's say something happens, because the idea of having insurance is in case something hits the fan and now you need insurance. Our service side will guide you through the claims process. We'll be there. We'll help get that claim resolved for you. TRMG is very unique
in that in addition to property and casualty insurance, we can do small group health plans, health benefits. If you offer benefits for your employees, we can help you find the right plan. We even have, I was talking to one of my colleagues, we have plans. Let's say you want to offer something to your employees. You don't want it to cost much. There are zero cost programs for employers that they can offer to the employee. Now, the employee, if they go for it, they'll have to pay for it, right? Out of pocket. But it is something that will give the employer an opportunity to offer something. Let's say, things are tight. They don't have really the capacity to pay for some sort of employee benefit program. There are options out there for some low cost or zero cost program.
Well, let's say
that gives them that offers some sort of health benefits to employees. Another thing that TRMG does, we're a payroll brokerage. People have a lot of payroll nowadays. There's a lot of payroll companies. Some do it the old-fashioned way, with your accountant, or they do it in-house, which is fine. But we're able to kind of place you with different payroll companies too. We have access to all the big ones, ADP, Paylocity, Paychex. But typically, we're able to save you money with payroll at TRMG because we get wholesale rates from all those payroll companies. And if you're with ADP or Paychex or Paylocity, you're paying retail rates right now. We're able to offer you our wholesale rates. So off the bat, you're already going to be saving money. We're able to save people 35 to 40% on their payroll costs annually.
Wow.
Yeah, because of our wholesale rates. So TRMG has positioned itself to be kind of like a one-stop shop, to your point, where you call one place, we got your insurance, and the way I like to call it is we support your business. We really do. We try to save you money, we support your business. You call one place, we'll do your insurance, we can handle your payroll, and if you're open to doing some employee benefits, or if you do offer it and you're looking for better pricing, we're able to do that for you too. TRMG is uniquely suited for businesses of a certain size, and what I mean by that is you're paying decent premium, you have payroll that you're using, you're at the point where you either are or want to provide some sort of employee benefit plan. We're a really good choice for you to come in and we sit down, we have some conversations, and it's a no obligation process, right? Like we sit down, we have a conversation, we go out and get some quotes for you, and then we present what we find, and if it works, you go for it. If it doesn't, it doesn't. We try again next year.
And you guys finance some of these things, or all of them?
Absolutely, yeah. We're able to finance. Some carriers offer installment plans. Some carriers don't offer installment plans. For those carriers that don't offer installment plans, we have access to premium finance companies. Okay. Going back to payroll and workers' comp, because those two are tied together. Workers' comp is based off of your payroll. Ideally, you'd want to connect your payroll to your workers' comp so that your workers' comp premium is based off of exactly what you pay in payroll every month. And we're able to do that too. We're able to connect your payroll with your workers' comp so that every time you issue payroll, every month you pay your workers' comp bill, and you're only paying what you're supposed to be paying, no more, no less. So if you do get audited at the end of your policy term, you don't owe a ton of money, which usually ends up happening, right? Companies, in order to reduce their premium, the annual payroll numbers that they'll provide on the application might not be the most accurate, might not be up to par. I'll put it that way. Yeah,
they estimate low.
There's a range.
Workman's comp, you pay like a year ahead, right? Yeah, that's how it works.
You pay for the current year that you estimate.
Yes.
Correct. So if you have an idea, I might pay between X and this amount, they're going to go through for the lower range. Understandably so. What happens is that these workers' comp insurance carriers will audit you. That doesn't mean you're in trouble. Yeah. And a lot of people think it's some sort of penalty. It's very standard practice. We get audited. It's very standard practice. All they want to see is that what your actual payroll was at the end of the year was the number that you said in the beginning of the year. If it wasn't, they're going to charge you for that difference. They're not going to charge you any more than the rate you were paying already. They're just going to make things right. Some companies don't have a problem with that. Where that becomes an issue with is in cash flow. If you're not budgeting or expecting at the end of the year to shell out X thousands of dollars to pay for your workers' comp audit, that might, mess with your cash flow, for the business's cash flow for that year. Definitely. That's why we like to recommend that let us come in and we'll connect your workers' comp to your payroll. So throughout the year, you're paying exactly what you should be paying, no more, no less. So at the end of the year, when there is an audit, there's nothing to it. You're not going to owe much. Maybe there's a few $100 that are off and here and there, but you have a less of a cash flow issue at the end of the year.
Yeah. No, and I laugh because I've been there.
Yeah.
Where you got to write a check for $30,000 and
yeah.
What are we gonna do now?
Yeah. No, I want to offer to all the listeners out there. People have questions, in my experience. A lot of questions. What do I include in my workers' comp payroll? Do I include only W-2s? Do I include 1099s also? What if I pay a company as a 1099 and not an individual? Reach out to us, you know. One of the things that I like doing is educating the clients, because insurance can be a 4-letter word to some people. And the more you understand, at least the more comfortable you feel. You know, I've worked with people who just think they're getting screwed over all the time. And as soon as I explain, you know, what the insurance company is thinking, you know, how they're looking at what all this is doing. Why are you paying so much in premium? Why is my workers' comp going up? There are programs and there are such things that we can do over time to lower your workers' comp premium. There's discounts if you're a drug-free workplace. There's a safety credit for workers' comp as well if you have, you know, a safety manual, a written safety manual for your company. These are little things that can save you a few percent off the bat. If you do have claims, we could institute some loss prevention programs into the company, some safety trainings that we can then communicate to the insurance carrier, and that will start to bring down your workers' comp premium over time. As I mentioned, an annual review of your business and all of your policies, even if you don't go for it, just to know, hey, what should I be covered for? This is what I do, Carlos. We tree trim, we deliver plants, we grow plants, we have a few trailers, we have a few trucks. I employ X people. Some people work in the office, some people are out in the field. What do I need to be fully covered? I'll lay it all out for you. At the end of the day, you're transferring risk when you buy insurance. If you want to take on that risk, that's on you. But if you want to transfer that risk to an insurance company, you talk to us.
I like that.
You talk to us. You talk to us, and
Transferring risk.
we'll lay it all out, and we'll provide the policies and the coverages that you would need.
What I love that you said.
You
today.
transfer risk at a premium. That's the exchange.
Yeah.
Here you go, insurance company. Take on my risk, and the insurance company says, not a problem. We'll take on this risk for this premium. You know, and it only works when your coverages and the information is correct.
Us, we have coverage from all of this already, but it's not with one person, right?
Yeah.
So it's different people that have come through at different times, and I'm married to them in different ways.
Absolutely.
Because I'm loyal, right? You came through, I'm gonna come through too. You know, what I like is that you can actually, someone can hold you accountable and say, hey, Carlos, put a reminder December 28th to call me, and I want a 30-minute with you where you can go over everything and tell me what's going on.
Yeah.
And they can hold you accountable on that. I love that. And then you can go over everything. You can come in, do a sit down. You don't know how crazy this is, guys, because there's things that I thought I knew what I had to know. And then I realized that I didn't know anything. And then I realized that there's so many more things. He has said things today that I did not know existed. So these are things that it is worth sitting down, speaking with someone that is obsessing over this to learn and better your position and risk at the end of the day, and have you set up so if anything pops off, that as business owners, everything pops off all day long from before we wake up.
Yeah.
That there's already problems to solve. So it's, if you have someone on your team that you can hold accountable, that comes through in every way when it comes to what he said that they offer, I don't know, man. I think we should sit down. You should sit
Absolutely.
down with staff, and we should go over a few things.
Yeah,
just because that is there, that accountability is there.
Correct.
And I love that.
That speaks to our service, right? We at TRMG, sometimes a broker, an agency will sell you insurance, and you don't hear from them until 3 days before your renewal a year later. We have a timeline of services where we reach out and we call, email, starting 120 days before your renewal period. We're calling you. We're finding out, hey, did anything change? Did you make less money this year? Did you make more money? Did you fire employees? Did you hire employees? Did you grow? Did you shrink in business? Because that all affects your premium.
Yeah.
You don't want to underpay. You also don't want to overpay. You have a dedicated account manager with us who is your point person. You have multiple people you could talk to at the agency. You could talk to me. You could talk to your account manager if there's any questions. If in the middle of the year you buy new equipment, that's something that people don't think of. I bought new equipment in the middle of the year. I bought a new truck. I need insurance for it. I need to add insurance. Okay, we could do that. You bought a bunch of new weed eaters if you're a landscaper. What
about something that came to mind right now? If, like us out here in agriculture, we don't need permits to build certain structures, but we would love to get maybe that structure insured.
Sure.
Is that something that can happen, even though
Absolutely.
there's... Yeah?
Absolutely.
So we would have to call and say, hey, we just did this either shade house or this barn or we did whatever we did. Can we add this on?
Yeah, it's all about communication. Typically, there'll be an inspection with the insurance company. They'll send somebody out.
That way you get
Just
more
kinda see.
coverage.
They'll check it out and they'll go through an underwriting process and provide a quote for premium. And if it works for you, it works for you. It depends on the limits of coverage. You're going to cover this for $1 million. You're going to cover it for 10 grand.
Yeah, that's different.
All that is different.
But that all depends on where you're at.
I've worked with nurseries where they just own the land. They're the landlords, and they want to buy a policy to cover themselves, and they rent their land to a nursery. So there's different policies if you're just a landlord. If you're just leasing out your property, but you want, and that's a different sort of policy where it's a little bit more cost effective because you're not the full risk taker. It's more the tenant, but there's some liability exposure because you just own the property.
Yeah.
So if you own land and you lease it to a nursery grower, and you want your property some liability coverage, I can help you with that too. Yeah. There's everyone and every business is different, and the details are different. So that's why it's hard to say this is going to be X amount of a policy. It really depends on a lot of factors.
Yeah, 100%.
And that's what I like about the business. You get to create a relationship. Back to what we were talking about. This is a people relationship business still, even today in 2025. That's why Bob is still killing it, because he gets that.
Yeah.
And we all learn from him, right? You create that relationship with the person, and now it only works when I have you as a client for a long time,
Exactly.
I'm trying to get you the lowest possible cost for the right coverage. I want to create a relationship. I want you to be well covered, and I want to continue and take this relationship on over the years. So that only works when I provide you with the best service.
And as time goes too, you'll see what else is out there that can benefit people in different places, and because you're just starting out on this journey. So there's so much to offer. I want you guys. I want to sit down with you guys, maybe see what we could do.
There you go. You see. It worked.
It makes sense. I love holding people accountable, so I don't have to deal with it.
Yeah.
I'm in a point in my life that I want to find time. I need to find time because I'm a father, number one, right? So family comes first. I'm a husband, number one. There we go. I'm a child of God. I'm a father. I'm a husband. I'm a business owner. I want to find time. If I don't have to have office staff call 6 different people, send 6 different payments, deal with all this stuff, even though those people came through back in the day, things change over time. I pay my dues with them 15 years. And now maybe it's time to jump on something that's just more credible, and that's it. I don't have to deal with it anymore. One person, hey, call them, hold them accountable, done. Yes, let's go, boom. That's it. Dunsky.
And he can also check with the people that you already have to see if those policies.
Exactly.
I do a lot of that too. There's people that have relationships with their current agents, which is absolutely understandable. I mean, that's what I'm going for too. And what I tell them is, I could just take a look at what you got and be like, hey, look, this is good, this is bad. I would advise against this. I would advise for this. I could take a look, offer a second look, make sure you are getting the best price. At the end of the day, a business owner is going to look at that bottom line too.
They are, but no, because I don't shop anywhere. I'm a business owner, and I don't shop like that. Because
you don't, but your brokers should be.
They should be. But I'm saying
for
exactly,
you, on your behalf.
Can hold. That's why I love it, because I hold you accountable.
Correct.
I don't have to worry about that.
Yeah.
I don't want to call and get my list of all my vehicles and all
Every
my
single
stuff
year.
and be like, hey, can you quote me? And then the guy doesn't even, he doesn't even call me back. And I'm wasting my time. I'd rather hold someone else accountable. That's why it's enticing for someone like me to reach out and work, at least listen to what you got to say, right? And the rate, it's not so much the cheapest rate. It's who comes through and we're done with it. We're off to the next page. For real. It's not everyone's looking for the cheapest price.
No, I agree.
Not everyone's looking for the cheapest price. A lot of people just want to get it done. There are people like that, which is another niche in itself. Yeah. Thank you guys for coming on.
No,
thank you for taking the time to come.
Congrats on the plant movement. This is fantastic. I'm a fan.
Thank you.
I'm a viewer. I love to see it.
Thank you.
And I feel like I've made it.
Yeah.
I'm officially on the plant movement.
Well,
Can you
man.
believe it?
Yeah, right. No, man.
Reach out. Just another plug. The Risk Management Group, TRMG.
Yeah.
We're here to help. Give us a call.
Information will be down in the description below, guys. If you made it to the end of the podcast, we love you guys. God bless you. If you need anything from us, you already know we're here. All right, guys?
Let's strive for improvement. Time for the blueprint. Minds to elevate, thrive, and demonstrate. Planting a movement. Sow the seeds, educate the flourish. Building up the team. Our network with purpose. Industry is green. Won't scratch the surface. No, this call is deep. Nobody gon' outwork us. Yeah, we chasing greatness. Trying to give the code. Moving up with patience. Foundation stone. Doing what it takes. We're here to break the mold. This for anyone who wanna level up. Let's grow.